My name is Anna. I am 32 years old, and I am writing this because I want other women to learn from my mistake. I want them to see the truth before it's too late. Sometimes, we destroy our own happiness and blame others. That's what I did. And now, I live with the pain of losing someone who once loved me deeply. I met my husband in the United States when I was very young. We were best friends first. We talked for hours, walked everywhere together, and shared our dreams like two people who believed they had the whole world in their hands. When he went to college, I waited for him. I believed in him completely. He worked hard, and when he finally got a good job, our families met and agreed we should marry. Our wedding was simple, but filled with joy. I thought my life was perfect. Soon after, we had a son, now 7 years old, my joy and my light. At that time, my husband worked long hours. He was tired, but he still tried to be a good father and husband. He had one flaw: he was short-tempered. He never hit me, but he could lose his temper quickly and shout. And I had my flaw too. Pride. Too much pride. I didn't want to feel small or weak. I wanted him to know he could not control me. That's where things began to unravel. Every time we argued, I packed my bags and went to my family's house. I cried in front of my sisters and told them my side of the story. They believed me without question, never asking what I had done. They called my husband to shout at him, insult him, and defend me. At home, he stayed quiet, confused by how quickly I left instead of working things out. I didn't want a divorce. I just wanted to prove a point, to make him fear losing me. Sometimes, I even said, if you want, you can divorce me. I didn't mean it, but I said it too many times. Words like that can cut deep. Then, one day, I went too far. We argued, and in my anger I called him weak, told him he was nothing, and challenged him, go ahead. Hit me if you are a man. Something in him broke. His face went dark, and for the first and only time, he slapped me. Then he opened the door and told me to leave. I was shocked. I never thought he would raise his hand to me. I ran to my family's house in tears. My sisters were furious. This is enough. We're calling the police. Still crying, I agreed. Part of me felt hurt, but part of me felt powerful, like I had won. He spent a night in the police station. People looked at me with pity, believing I was the victim. But deep inside, I knew I wasn't completely innocent. My words had cut him over and over. My pride had humiliated him. The next day, his family came to my parents' home with him. He looked exhausted, his eyes red. He knelt down, apologized, and begged me to take back the case. His mother cried. His sister took my hand, saying, please forgive him. This is not who he is. For the first time, I saw his pain, and my own part in causing it. I dropped the case. For a while, things were quiet. He was gentle, bought me small gifts, helped with the baby, and sometimes even made me laugh. I thought maybe we could heal. But I hadn't changed. One small argument about money sent me packing my bags again. I left without much explanation, painting myself as the victim once more. 2 days later, a friend called, your husband is in the hospital. My heart dropped, but my sisters stopped me from going. He's lying to get your attention. If you go now, he wins. I listened to them. I didn't visit, didn't call, didn't check. He stayed in the hospital for a week. When he returned home, I still stayed away, waiting for him to beg me back. But he never did. One afternoon, I got a letter from the court. He was filing for divorce. My hands shook. I called him, expecting him to say it wasn't what he really wanted. Instead, when I told him I agreed, he simply said, "Okay." At court, I tried to hurt him. I told the judge I wanted half of everything we owned. But his words cut me to my core. Give her everything, the house, the car, the money. I just want peace. In that moment, I felt small. Not because I was losing material things, but because I realized I had destroyed my own marriage with my own hands, my own mouth, my own pride. That was July 2009. After the divorce, I returned to my family. They told me I was brave, that I would find someone better. Outwardly, I laughed with them. At night, I cried into my pillow. I thought he would come back. Weeks passed. Months. Then I heard the news, he was married again. I saw the wedding photo online, him in a suit, smiling and holding another woman's hand. The same hand that once held mine. Life moved on for everyone except me. My sisters were married with children. My pride, the very thing I clung to, was now killing me slowly. Neighbors whispered. Some laughed. My parents stopped asking about my feelings. I became the family joke, the sister who had everything and lost it. The only light in my life was my son, who looked like his father and asked about him often. I told him his dad was busy, hiding the truth that his mother had pushed him away. I struggled to find work. I had no skills. My confidence was gone. In my town, a divorced woman is seen as broken, and in my case, they weren't wrong. I often thought of calling my ex, just to say sorry. Not to win him back, but to give peace to both of us. But fear of silence kept me from dialing. So I write this instead, for every woman who thinks walking away makes her strong, for every sister who advises without thinking of the pain, for every girl who thinks pride is more important than peace. If your husband is cruel or hurts you, leave. But if he is just human, tired, imperfect, talk, listen, stay. Good men are not perfect. They will make mistakes, just like we do. I made mine, and I live with them. Marriage needs patience, forgiveness, and humility. I forgot that. And now I am alone. Please, don't let pride speak louder than love. Pride won't keep you warm at night. Love, respect, and understanding just might. After I accepted that my marriage was truly over, life became quiet in a way that was almost frightening. There were no arguments, no slammed doors, no phone calls from my sisters telling me what to do. Just silence. At first, I thought silence meant peace. But it wasn't peace, it was emptiness. I woke up each day and went through the motions. I cooked for my son, walked him to school, came home, and sat in the same chair in my parents' house. Sometimes I would stare out the window for hours, my mind lost in the past. I kept wondering, how did I let things go so far? I knew the answer, but knowing didn't change anything. Money was tight. My ex still sent support for our son, but I hated depending on it. I wanted to earn my own way. So I swallowed my pride and started looking for work again. Every interview was a reminder of how much I had let my life revolve around being a wife. I had no experience, no training, no real skills to offer. One manager even looked at my application and said, "You've been out of work for too long." I left with tears burning my eyes. I started taking small jobs, cleaning houses, helping at a local tailor shop, anything I could find. The pay was little, but it gave me something more important, purpose. Slowly, I began to see that work was more than money. It was dignity. Every time I earned even a small amount, I felt like I had taken a step away from the shadow of my past. But healing wasn't just about money. It was about my son. He had started asking harder questions. "Mom, Did you stop loving Dad? Mom, why don't we live with him? I told him, things just didn't work out. He would nod, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. One day, after seeing him quietly watching a father and son playing in the park, I went to my room and cried. Not just for me, but for the family my pride had broken. That night, I wrote in my journal. I cannot change the past, but I can change what my son sees from today onwards. I promised myself, I would never speak badly about his father in front of him. I wanted him to grow up respecting the man who gave him life, even if we couldn't be together. It took years, but little by little, I changed. I learned to listen instead of reacting. I learned to apologize without feeling small. I learned that true strength is quiet, it doesn't need shouting or proving. And I learned something I wish I had known before. A home is built on humility as much as love. I still think about my ex-husband sometimes. I still wonder if he ever thinks of me, even for a moment. But I no longer dream about him coming back. That chapter is closed. Now, my story is about rebuilding, for myself, and for my son. I wish I could say things got better after that, but they didn't. Every time Martin came home from work, I watched him carefully, looking for signs that he still loved me the same way. I was desperate for reassurance, but I didn't know how to ask for it without sounding needy. So instead, I tried to be perfect, a perfect wife, a perfect daughter-in-law, a perfect hostess when his friends came over. But the truth is, perfection is exhausting. And no matter how much I tried, it was never enough for his mother. She would comment on my cooking, a little too much salt, dear, or the way I folded the laundry, that's not how we do it here. She never shouted. It was always small, cutting remarks delivered with a smile. But they pierced me deeper than any loud argument ever could. Martin never confronted her about it. He would just say, "She means well, Marlene. Don't take it to heart." But how could I not? Our home didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like I was living in someone else's shadow. Then came the day everything shifted. I was cleaning the living room when I found a small, sealed envelope tucked between the cushions of the couch. Inside was a letter from Martin's mother, to him. I knew I shouldn't read it, but curiosity, an annoying sense of dread got the better of me. The letter said, in neat, careful handwriting. Martin, I know you love her, but she is not right for you. She doesn't understand our family. She never will. One day, you will see. My hands shook as I read those words. I felt like someone had pulled the ground from beneath my feet. That night, I couldn't look at Martin the same way. The thought that he might agree with her, even a little, began to haunt me. When the dust settled and the shouting faded into memory, I found myself in a strange kind of silence. Not the comfortable silence of two people who love each other, that was gone. This was the heavy kind, the one that sits in your chest like a stone. Days turned into weeks. I went about my life, cooking, cleaning, showing up for work, but it felt like I was moving underwater. The bed was colder. The evenings stretched longer. Every corner of the house reminded me of him, not in the warm way, but in the aching way. At first, I tried to numb myself. I scrolled endlessly on my phone, I bought things I didn't need, I busied myself with meaningless tasks. But no matter what I did, the truth sat in my chest. I had lost a man who once loved me with all his heart, because I couldn't see what was real until it was gone. It's easy to look back and point fingers. It's much harder to admit that sometimes, the villain in the story is you. I remember the first time I ran into him again. It was months later, in a grocery store. He looked different, calmer, lighter somehow. He smiled politely, the way you do with someone you used to know. And in that moment, I realized the hardest truth of all. He had moved on. And I was still standing in the ruins I had built. But life, as cruel as it can be, also has a strange way of giving you second chances, not with the same people, but with yourself. I started reading again. I started walking in the mornings. I started treating myself kindly, not because I was perfect, but because I had learned the cost of being careless. Now, I'm not here to pretend I'm healed completely, or that I have all the answers. But I do know this. Love is fragile. It's not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about the quiet moments, the small kindnesses, the patience to understand someone's heart before judging their actions. If you're reading this, and you have someone in your life who truly cares for you, look up from your distractions. Notice them. Appreciate them. Because once they walk away, sometimes they never come back. I learned that the hard way. And it's a lesson I'll carry for the rest of my life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.